If you're listening to this right now, understand one thing first: what I went through wasn't heartbreak, it was survival. I'm going back to the story where everything in my life actually started. I was 18 years old. A kid. I knew nothing about women, nothing about relationships. I came from a complete family, no drama, no constant fights, no trauma background. I was calm, emotionally stable, one of the most grounded people in my environment. I had never been dependent on anyone emotionally. And then, suddenly, I found myself in a relationship where a woman started pulling away, coming back, disappearing, returning again. At that moment, I was completely unprepared. It crushed me. At first, I couldn't even understand why it hit me this hard. Even now, looking back honestly, there were no logical reasons for it to become so intense. But it did. And I wasn't fighting once a day. I was fighting every second. Morning. Afternoon. Evening. Night. Constant resistance. I intuitively tried every "lower your importance" advice that supposedly helps men move on. None of it worked. Not even close. Because those long, painful attachment stories usually survive on hope. Romanticized hope. Maybe it'll get better. Maybe it'll work out. Time will fix it. But when the situation is already clear, most men detach within 6 months. That wasn't my case. I can say this with absolute certainty: on a physical and emotional level, I was fighting for my existence. This wasn't some teenage crush that fades and gets replaced. This was different. And at some point, without understanding why, I started my first real ignore. Not because someone told me to. No one advised me. I had already tried everything else. I didn't even understand where an 18-year-old kid found the strength to act against every emotional instinct he had. But I was ready to go all the way. It lasted a long time. There were ignores, returns, conversations, chaos. I couldn't see the future of that story or predict the outcome. But the pain became the stimulus. For the next 5 to 6 years, I studied relationships 6 hours a day. Every single day. Forums, stories, patterns, behaviors. I didn't look for advice because I didn't believe anyone could give it. I tried to understand how situations actually form and how to get out of them alive. There were moments when I wanted to give up completely. When I was on the edge. Every time, I found one reason why I had no right to quit. Slowly, I adapted. I remember one specific moment after a meeting where everything felt wrong again. I was driving home and realized that if I went straight home, it would get really bad. So I pulled out my phone, opened social media, picked the first woman I barely knew, and asked her to go for a walk. Not for romance. Just to talk. I understood I had to find ways to survive mentally. I can't describe everything that happened, but at some points, the ignore started when I felt physically sick. Literally nauseous. One thought about her, instant nausea that could last all day. This isn't about "don't stalk your ex" advice. In those moments, without instructions, I chose distance. Over time, the situation changed. I won't go into details. What matters is this: that experience completely split my life into before and after. I started doing things that were completely unnatural for me. I began practicing live interactions with women, even though I was never interested in that before. I started constant interaction just to gain experience and understand what not to do. Dozens of dialogues, calls, messages. I experimented without expecting success. Sometimes I deliberately stepped away from correct paths just to see what would happen. I doubted myself constantly, analyzed feedback, systematized experience, criticized my own conclusions, and only accepted ideas after repeated confirmation. The knowledge I gained back then is exactly what I still share today. I had no talent. Nothing special. Nothing at all except pain, which gave me motivation and determination to go to the end. That's why I want every man listening to this, anyone who feels even a small resistance around women, dating, confidence, or fear, to understand what that experience actually gave me. Despite everything I went through, I never developed hatred toward women. Not toward one woman, not toward women as a group. I understood something important: people act according to their nature, and blaming them is pointless. But what that period gave me was something far more valuable: strength. Real strength. The kind you only get through sustained resistance. After that level of pressure, romanticizing anything becomes impossible. You can't fool yourself anymore. You can't be manipulated by hope, fantasy, or illusion. Fear loses its power. Truly. There's almost nothing that can scare you after that. And constant interaction sharpened perception to the point where you immediately see outcomes, lies, patterns, trajectories. You see where things are going before they go there. And this answers the question everyone asks me: how do you stop romanticizing? You earn weight. Internal weight. You develop the ability to make difficult decisions without drama. Not because they're easy, but because hesitation disappears. You don't know how to step back anymore. I'm not saying everyone needs to go through exactly this. But you should never be afraid of something similar. It's one of the best things that ever happened to me. I can't take internet advice seriously to this day. Distract yourself. Stay busy. Busy with what? I trained physically every day because otherwise I couldn't sleep. Nights were brutal. Dreams were worse. But when you overcome something like that, you don't remember it with sadness, you remember it with hunger. With excitement. As a challenge that wanted to be conquered. Not the woman. The situation. I honestly wish everyone involved well. My goal was never revenge. I wanted to look at the situation from above, to look at my past self, weak, desperate, lost, and never be that person again. When it becomes about survival, you can't half ignore, you can't just check her page once, you can't lie to yourself. That doesn't work. Again and again, I confirmed one truth: determination is the defining factor of success. And I saw this everywhere. I had a friend back then, let's call him Mike. He had nothing going for him with women except pure audacity. He printed thousands of business cards and handed them out to women everywhere: subway, traffic lights, sidewalks. Objectively stupid. Probably the worst strategy possible. But 5 out of 100 women contacted him. That's 5 more than most men get doing nothing. Most men are searching for magic formulas instead of taking action. Mike was strange, direct, unconventional. On first dates, he would tell women what they should change in their lives. Completely insane. And yet, in a small percentage of cases, it worked. That's when I understood something critical: fear is the signal. If you're afraid to do something, that's exactly what you should do. I treated fear like a compass. If I felt hesitation approaching a woman, that meant I had to approach. If in one day I didn't get rejected at least once, I considered the day wasted. Rejection meant progress. The same applied to failed conversations and awkward interactions. There are 2 massive mistakes I see men make when they start practicing and trying to change their lives, and both of them destroy progress. The first one is trying to do everything perfectly from the start. You want smooth conversations, instant attraction, confidence without discomfort. And when it doesn't work, you think something is wrong with you. Let me be clear, I failed more times than you ever will. I got rejected more times than you can imagine, hundreds of times more than where you are right now. And I enjoyed it. Because every rejection gave me data. Every objection forced me to think, what could I do differently? Not immediately. Not emotionally. Over time. Only later, when you compare successes and failures side by side, patterns appear. The second mistake is simplifying reality into childish slogans. Women only want money. People who say that don't have money. And even those who do still struggle in relationships. Money doesn't save you from drama. The other extreme is full negativity. Healthy relationships are impossible. Think logically. Divorce rates are high, yes. But even if only 1 out of 10 men ends up in a genuinely good relationship without studying this topic at all, why would you believe you're incapable of doing better when you actually put in the work? That answer was unacceptable to me. So I went deeper. If you're in pain and you keep moving, that pain becomes fuel. But only if you resist instead of endure. Those are different things. Rejection, failure, confusion, that's the most productive phase of your life. The worst thing you can do is stop. In my late teens, I understood one thing clearly: inaction is worse than any mistake. When I started this channel, I doubted myself constantly. I tried, failed, stopped, restarted. Then I came across a random YouTube clip from a business forum. A woman asked a speaker, "Who is a good entrepreneur?" His answer was simple: the one who keeps going after failure. The bad one stops. That was it. That idea hit exactly where I was emotionally. I decided that if I worked every day and kept acting, results would come, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10. They came much sooner. The path was shorter than I expected. And it's the same with your personal life. You are capable of having strong, healthy, fulfilling relationships. The deciding factor isn't luck, looks, or money. It's how badly you want it, how deeply you believe it's possible, and what you're willing to go through to get there. So here's the final truth, and I want you to hear this clearly: nobody is coming to save you. No article, no viral tip, no one-trick video is going to change your life. Change only happens when you decide that stopping is no longer an option. When pain doesn't paralyze you but sharpens you. When fear stops being a warning sign and becomes a direction. Every man who has strong boundaries, clarity, and confidence earned it through resistance, not comfort. If you're struggling right now, good. That means you're alive. That means you're at the exact point where growth is possible. Don't wait until you feel ready. You won't. Act while you're afraid. Move while you're unsure. Get rejected. Get uncomfortable. Build internal weight. Because one day you'll look back at this version of yourself, confused, emotional, desperate for answers, and you'll realize this was the moment everything actually started. If this hit you, don't just consume it and move on. Do something today that scares you. And if you want guidance, structure, and real understanding instead of empty motivation, stay here. This channel exists for men who are done romanticizing pain and are ready to turn it into power.